James Simons built $28 billion by applying mathematical thinking to financial decisions, not just in the stock market, but in every choice that involved capital. One of the most revealing decisions? He drove the same Nissan Maxima for 14 years while managing the most profitable fund in history. Not out of greed, by pure mathematics. Today, I'm going to show you the exact calculations that explain why people who understand probability and net present value make completely different vehicle choices than the general population. Based on data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis and research published by the Federal Reserve on consumer patterns, there is an inverse statistical correlation between financial understanding and the tendency to buy new cars. It's not morality, it's mathematics. And the numbers are more impressive than you might think. According to research from Experian Automotive published in 2023, the average American spends $48,000 on a new vehicle and finances it for 72 months. Meanwhile, analysis of high-net-worth portfolios conducted by Spectrum Group shows that 61% of American millionaires drive vehicles that are more than 3 years old. The mathematical difference between these two approaches over 30 years? Approximately $1,200,000 in accumulated net worth. This is not rhetorical exaggeration. It is a calculation of net present value, applying the historical rate of return of the S&P 500 and 10% per year, according to data compiled by the Federal Reserve. I will prove mathematically why this seemingly simple transportation decision creates exponential wealth divergence over time. If you want to learn to think mathematically about consumer decisions, to understand how small choices compound exponentially over decades, create massive wealth differences, subscribe to this channel now. What I share are not lifestyle opinions or moral judgments about how people spend money. It is quantitative opportunity cost analysis based on verifiable economic data. Most people make consumer decisions based on emotion and social comparison. Do you prefer decision frameworks based on probability and net present value? Hit the subscribe button. I will demonstrate why vehicle choice is the most impactful consumption variable on wealth accumulation for middle-income Americans, even surpassing housing choices in certain scenarios. This is according to an analysis published in the Journal of Consumer Research, examining consumption patterns over complete life cycles. The math starts with a concept that surprises smart people: asymmetric depreciation. New cars do not depreciate straight line. They depreciate exponentially for the first few years, and then the depreciation curve flattens dramatically. According to data from Kelley Blue Book analyzing 100 best-selling models in the United States over 15 years, a new vehicle loses an average of 23% of its value the moment you drive it out of the dealership. Not throughout the first year. On the first day, you pay $48,000 on Tuesday morning. As of Tuesday afternoon, that asset is worth approximately $37,000. $11,000 of equity evaporated in 6 hours. No other consumer good exhibits such rapid and predictable value destruction. At the end of the first year, according to the same Kelley Blue Book analysis, the vehicle lost approximately 31% of its original value. Your $48,000 car is now worth $33,000. $15,000 of depreciation in 12 months. At the end of the third year, accumulated depreciation reaches approximately 46%. Your vehicle is now worth $26,000. $22,000 disappeared. But here's the crucial mathematical pattern. Between year 3 and year 10, the rate of depreciation slows dramatically. From year 3 to year 6, the vehicle loses approximately another $6,000, dropping to $20,000. From year 6 to year 10, it loses just another $4,000, settling at $16,000. the curve flattens. Why? Because there is a value floor for functional vehicles. A well-maintained 10-year-old Honda Accord is worth zero. It's worth between $12,000 and $16,000, depending on mileage and condition, according to market data from Edmunds. This depreciation asymmetry creates a profound mathematical opportunity for those purchasing vehicles that are 3 years old. Let me demonstrate with side-by-side calculation using two hypothetical buyers over 30 years. Buyer A adopts the standard American approach documented by Experian. Buys a new vehicle every 6 years for $48,000. Finances 70% with a 6-year loan at 7%. And interest according to average auto financing rates published by the Federal Reserve. Buyer B adopts an asymmetric depreciation-based approach. Buys the same model 3-year-old vehicle for $26,000 in cash, drives it for 8 years, repeats. Both drive vehicles of equivalent quality. Both maintain adequately. Let's calculate the total cost of ownership over 30 years. Buyer A over 30 years purchases 5 new vehicles. Each purchase, $48,000. Total capital disbursed, $240,000. But buyer A finances it, so there is interest. Financing $33,600 per purchase, 70% of $48,000 to 7% over 6 years. The monthly payment is approximately $567, and the total paid over 6 years is approximately $40,800. Interest paid, $7,200 per vehicle. 5 vehicles, $36,000 in total interest. Total cost over 30 years for buyer A, $276,000. Now buyer B, over the course of 30 years, purchasing a 3-year-old vehicle for $26,000 every 8 years, buyer B purchases approximately 4 vehicles. 4 times $26,000, $104,000. No financing, no interest. Total cost over 30 years, $104,000. Direct disbursement difference, $172,000. But that's not the full story. The real divergence appears when we calculate the opportunity cost. Buyer A is making monthly payments of $567 for 30 consecutive years because there is always an active car loan. Buyer B has had no car payments for 30 years. If buyer B invests $567 a month for 30 years in an S&P 500 index fund with a historical return of 10% per year, according to data from the Federal Reserve, how much will he accumulate? Using Future Value Annuity Calculator, $567 per month at 10% over 30 years generates approximately $1,300,000. Add in the $172,000 saved in direct vehicle costs, and the total equity difference between buyer A and buyer B after 30 years is approximately $1,472,000. Same quality of transport. Same reliability. Equity difference of approximately $1.5 million. This is not an opinion about lifestyle. It is net present value calculation based on verifiable market data and documented historical returns. Obviously, this projection assumes that historical market return patterns continue, which is not guaranteed. Markets fluctuate, and future returns may differ. But the mathematical principle of opportunity cost remains valid regardless of the specific rate of return. Now I'm going to show you why high net worth people understand this math intuitively or through experience. Research conducted by Spectrum Group in 2022, interviewing 10,000 Americans with a net worth of more than $1 million excluding primary residence, revealed fascinating patterns. 61% drive vehicles that are more than 3 years old. 38% drive vehicles that are more than 6 years old. Only 16% buy new vehicles regularly. Compare this to Americans with a net worth under $200,000 as per data from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. 54% have an active vehicle loan, and the average American in this range spends 17% of gross annual income on transportation, including vehicle payments, insurance, and maintenance, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey. The inverse correlation is statistically significant. The greater the financial sophistication measured by accumulated net worth, the lower the probability of purchasing new vehicles and the lower the percentage of income allocated to transportation. Why? Not because rich people are stingy. Because they understand opportunity cost. Thomas Stanley documented this pattern extensively in his research for the book The Millionaire Next Door, published by Taylor Trade in 1996 and updated in subsequent studies. Stanley interviewed more than 500 millionaires and found that the vast majority drive 3 to 8-year-old vehicles, buy used, and avoid auto financing. The typical American millionaire, according to Stanley's research, drives a 4-year-old Ford F-150 or a 5-year-old Toyota Camry, not a new Mercedes S-Class. The mathematical reason? They intuitively or explicitly calculated that every dollar not spent on new vehicle depreciation can be allocated to assets that appreciate in value. Stocks, rental properties, businesses, index funds. While a new car loses 23% of its value on the first day, these alternative assets have appreciation potential. The millionaire thinks, I can spend $48,000 on a new car that will be worth $26,000 in 3 years. Or I can spend $26,000 on a 3-year-old car that will be worth $20,000 in 8 years and invest the difference of $22,000 that today could become $60,000 in 10 years at a 10% compound return. This is not speculation. It's depreciation arbitrage. Buy where the depreciation curve has already occurred and avoid the steep segment of the curve. This is value mathematics, not moral judgment about consumption preferences. Now I'm going to show you the psychological trap that captures smart people and makes them ignore this obvious math. It's called monthly payment anchoring. Dealerships and financial institutions have perfected the art of making $48,000 seem affordable by refracting the number through the prism of monthly payments. Only $567 a month sounds manageable for someone making $60,000 a year. Psychologically, $567 seems small compared to $48,000. But mathematically, you are committing to pay $40,800 over 6 years, including $7,200 in interest, for an asset that is losing value every month. It is the opposite of investment. It is destruction of assets financed by credit. Research published in the Journal of Consumer Research by Drazen Prelek and George Loewenstein demonstrated that when consumers evaluate purchases in terms of monthly payment rather than total price, they systematically underestimate the true cost by an average of 38%. The human brain does not intuitively calculate the present value of future payment streams. So, $567 a month seems trivial, but $48,000 seems substantial, although mathematically they are equivalent when adjusting for interest. Dealers systematically exploit this cognitive flaw. What monthly payment works for your budget is the seller's first question, not how much do you want to spend in total. Because focusing on monthly payment disables total cost mathematical processing. Add to this the phenomenon that behavioral economists call the endowment effect, documented by Daniel Kahneman and others. Once you imagine owning the new car, that you feel the steering wheel, that you see yourself driving, your brain has already processed ownership, and the perceived value increases irrationally. Combining monthly payment anchoring with the endowment effect creates financial decisions that smart people would make differently if forced to calculate net present value and opportunity cost explicitly. This is not moral judgment. It's an observation about decision architecture. When decision structure obscures true mathematics, even smart people make statistically suboptimal decisions. Quick data collection experiment. I'm curious about the geographic distribution of people who think mathematically about opportunity cost rather than emotionally about consumption status. Where are you watching from? Leave your city and state in the comments below, or your country if you are outside the United States. This isn't just curiosity. I'm genuinely interested in testing whether probability-based thinkers cluster geographically or are randomly distributed. I want to create a statistical map of where people who value quantitative analysis of consumer decisions are located. Leave your comment with location now, and let's see what patterns emerge from the data. Practical application number 2. The hidden cost of social signaling. There is a psychological reason why people buy new cars despite unfavorable math. Cars function as status signals. Research published in the Journal of Economic Psychology by Nellison and Myers in 2011 demonstrated that observers assess strangers' socioeconomic status primarily through visible possessions, especially vehicles. Study participants rated owners of new luxury cars as having higher status than owners of modest 3-year-old cars, even when told they both had identical incomes. This creates social incentive to buy expensive status signals even when mathematically irrational. Economists call this conspicuous consumption, a term coined by Thorstein Veblen in 1899. You buy the item not for its functionality, but for the signal it sends to observers about its status. Here's the mathematical paradox. High net worth people don't need to signal status S because they already have status. Low net worth people buy status signals hoping that observers will infer status they do not possess. The result: low net worth people drive more expensive vehicles than high net worth people on average, as documented by Stanley. The millionaire drives a 5-year-old Toyota Camry. The manager earning $65,000 a year drives a new BMW 3 Series financed at 7%. Mathematically, the manager is destroying wealth to signal status he does not have. The millionaire does not need to signal because he has royal status. This inversion appears consistently in consumption data. According to the Federal Reserve's analysis of spending patterns by income quintile, the top income quintile spends the lowest percentage of income on transportation, 9%, while the middle quintile spends 17%. The richest spend absolutely the most in total dollars, but proportionately less in income, and tend to drive vehicles that have already experienced steep depreciation. Now I will show you the present value calculation that makes this difference clear. Imagine two co-workers earning $70,000 a year. Colleague A buys BMW 328 new for $52,000, financing 85% to 6.5% over 60 months. Monthly payment, $768. After 5 years, the vehicle is worth approximately $28,000, according to Edmunds depreciation data. Total paid, $46,080. Net loss after selling, $18,080 in 5 years. Colleague B buys a 3-year-old Honda Accord for $22,000 in cash. After 5 years of ownership, 8 total years for the vehicle, it is worth approximately $14,000. Net loss, $8,000 in 5 years. Depreciation difference, $10,080. But add the opportunity cost. Colleague A pays $768 per month for 60 months. Colleague B has no car payment and invests $768 monthly at a conservative 8% return below the S&P historical average. After 5 years, colleague B has accumulated approximately $56,000. Total equity difference after 5 years between these two colleagues earning identical salaries, approximately $66,000. One bought status signal. Another bought an accumulation of assets. Over 30 years of career, if this pattern continues, the difference approaches $800,000 to $1 million in accumulated net worth according to present value calculations. Both drive reliable and safe vehicles. The only difference? One paid for the signal, the other optimized for mathematics. This illustrates why behavioral economists argue that conspicuous consumption is economically irrational, but psychologically rational. It makes social sense, but not mathematical sense. The question each person needs to answer individually. Are you optimizing for short-term social perception or long-term equity? There is no morally correct answer. But there is a measurable mathematical difference. Practical application number 3. How the automotive industry structures incentives to maximize consumer wealth destruction. Automakers and lenders make billions by exploiting the difference between sticker price and total cost of ownership. Let me show you financial engineering. You enter the dealership focused on purchasing a $35,000 vehicle. Seller immediately offers to upgrade to 42,000 model for just $95 more per month. $95 seems trivial, but over the course of 60 months, that's an additional $5,700 plus interest, approximately $6,300 total. It then offers an extended warranty package for just an additional $49 a month, which over the life of the loan is $2,940. Then, paint protection for $30 a month, which adds up to $1,800. Suddenly, you're paying not $42,000 but $53,040. And your monthly payment is not $500 but $774. You went in wanting to spend $35,000 and you're leaving having committed to $53,000, 51% increase, and psychologically it looks like you just accepted a few small monthly increments. This technique is called pay monthly selling and is universally taught in automotive sales training. Why? Because it works. Consumer Federation of America research published in 2019 found that 82% of car buyers were unable to accurately calculate the total price they would pay based on the quoted monthly payment. Most underestimated 20 to 40%. Manufacturers know that buyers think about monthly payment, not total price, so they structure the entire transaction around this cognitive bias. Add another layer: holiday incentive sales. Seat. Manufacturer offers 0% financing for 60 months, which sounds incredible. But what's not highlighted, the same vehicle was discounted by $5,000 the previous month, and to qualify for 0%, you need to pay full price. So you save approximately $3,000 in interest over 5 years, but pay $5,000 more in principal. You lost $2,000 thinking you were getting an amazing deal. These techniques are not illegal. They are perfectly legal incentive structures designed to maximize revenue extraction by exploiting documented cognitive biases. The mathematical defense? Always calculate the true total price before considering any financing. Always compare total cash price, including all add-ons, warranties, and fees, with alternatives, including purchasing the same model that is 3 years old. And always calculate the opportunity cost. If I don't make that $700 monthly payment and invest instead, where will I be in 10 years? Asking these 3 questions mathematically transforms the decision framework from emotional to quantitative, and statistically leads to choices that build equity rather than destroy it. Practical application number 4. The maintenance and reliability equation. Common objection to the strategy of buying 3 to 8-year-old vehicles. I'm going to spend more on repairs and maintenance. Let's test this objection against real data. Consumer Reports publishes comprehensive reliability data based on surveys of hundreds of thousands of subscribers, tracking actual repair costs over the life of the vehicle. According to their analysis of best-selling models, the average maintenance and repair cost for a 3 to 8-year-old vehicle is approximately $1,200 per year for trusted brands like Toyota, Honda, and Mazda. Compare that to new vehicle depreciation, $22,000 in the first 3 years as we calculated earlier, which is approximately $7,300 per year. Even if you double the maintenance costs to $2,400 per year for older vehicle, you are still saving approximately $4,900 per year in avoided depreciation. Over 8 years of ownership of the used vehicle, total maintenance cost is approximately $19,200 in the doubled scenario. But you avoided $22,000 in depreciation in just the first 3 years of the new one, plus additional depreciation in years 4 through 8. Mathematically, even in the worst maintenance scenario, buying used still wins financially. But here's the secret. You don't have to accept the worst-case scenario. If you buy brands known for reliability, Honda Civic, Toyota Camry, Mazda 3, Subaru Outback with documented maintenance history, and have pre-purchase inspection by independent mechanic costing approximately $150, you can identify potential problems before purchasing and negotiate price appropriately or simply move on to the next vehicle. This $150 due diligence can save you tens of thousands over the course of ownership. Additionally, vehicles 3 to 8 years old are still within the high reliability curve. Data from Consumer Reports shows that significant mechanical failures are rare up to approximately 120,000 miles for well-built brands. 3-year-old vehicle typically has between 30 and 40,000 miles. 8-year-old vehicle typically has between 80 and 100,000 miles. Both are well within the zone of reliable operation. The myth that used cars are money pits for repairs applies mostly to poorly maintained vehicles or from brands with poor reliability records, not to well-chosen vehicles from reputable manufacturers with adequate maintenance records. The math is clear. Even adding $2,000 a year in extra maintenance, you still come out decades ahead in accumulated equity compared to buying new every 6 years. And if you choose strategically, your actual maintenance cost will be closer to $1,200 than $2,400, further amplifying the mathematical advantage of buying on the flat part of the depreciation curve. Now, I will integrate these 4 principles into a single decision framework that you can apply. Here is the mathematical framework for optimized vehicle decisions for wealth building. Step 1. Calculate how much you can truly afford, defined not as what monthly payment fits in my budget, but as how much capital can I allocate to transportation without compromising investment and energy savings. Emergency. See rule of thumb based on financial planning data. Total transportation cost including vehicle payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance should not exceed 15% of gross income if you are actively building wealth. For someone making $70,000 a year, that is $10,500 annually or $875 monthly total. If insurance is $200 a month and fuel is $150 and maintenance is $100, you have $425 a month available for the vehicle itself. Don't buy joint in payment, buy based on total capital allocation. Step 2. Identify vehicle models that meet your functional needs. Reliable transportation, adequate safety, sufficient space, and have a proven track record of reliability, according to Consumer Reports or J.D. Power. Focus on brands with low lifetime ownership costs. Step 3. Buy that model that is 3 to 5 years old. Old with 40 to 60,000 miles from a reputable private seller or dealership. Always get a Carfax or AutoCheck vehicle history report costing approximately $40 to verify clean title, no accidents, and consistent maintenance. Always have it inspected by an independent mechanic before purchasing. Owing more than the value of the vehicle. Interest rates on used vehicles are typically 1 to 2 percentage points higher than new ones according to Federal Reserve data. But you are financing a much smaller amount, so the total interest paid is still less. Step 5. Maintain the vehicle meticulously. Follow the manufacturer's maintenance schedule. Preventive maintenance is the best bargain in vehicle ownership. Step 6. Drive the vehicle for 8 to 10 years or 150,000 miles, whichever comes first. At the end of that period, sell it privately to maximize salvage value and repeat the process. Following this framework, your total cost of vehicle ownership over 30 years will be approximately $80,000 to $120,000 compared to $250,000 to $300,000 for someone buying new every 6 years. $80,000 not just saved but invested at compound returns creates an equity difference of approximately $800,000 to $1,200,000 over a full career. This is not theory. It is arithmetic applied consistently over decades. Newer and flashier. But here's the statistical reality according to net worth data. The neighbors with the newer cars have less money in the bank. The correlation is consistent and documented. The math doesn't just calculate. Let's do final comparative analysis to prove the point mathematically. 2 people. Same age of 25. Same starting salary of $60,000 with 3% growth per year. Same 10% retirement contributions. Same savings rates. Only difference: vehicle choices. Person A buys new every 6 years. Person B buys at 3 years of age every 8 years. Both retire at 65. Let's project net worth in retirement. Person A, over the course of 40 years from 25 to 65, purchases approximately 7 new vehicles. Assuming vehicle inflation of 3% per year, prices evolve from an initial $48,000 to approximately $65,000 for the last vehicle. Total cost in today's dollars using discounted present value. AP approximately $380,000, including financing interest. Person B over 40 years buys 5 3-year-old vehicles. Total cost in today's dollars, approximately $140,000. Disbursement difference, $240,000. But remember, Person A has been making average monthly payments of $700 for 40 years. Person B invests this $700 monthly in S&P 500 index fund. 40 years at 10% return, according to the Federal Reserve's historical average. Approximately $4,047,000. Add the $240,000 direct cost savings invested over time, plus approximately $700,000. Total asset difference between Person A and Person B at retirement resulting exclusively from vehicle choices. Approximately $4,747,000. Person A retires with whatever his 10% retirement contributions have accumulated. Let's say $2,500,000. Person B retires with $2,500,000 from the same contributions plus $4,747,000 from the vehicle strategy. Total for Person B, $7,247,000. Person A, $2,500,000. Same salary, same career trajectory, same savings discipline. A different vehicle choice repeated consistently over 40 years creates a net worth difference of $4,747,000 $747,000. This is not an exaggeration. It's compounding. This projection obviously assumes historical market returns that may not continue and does not account for taxes or investment fees that would reduce returns. But even having for conservatism, you're still looking at a difference of $2,373,000. A choice. Compounding applied over decades. This is the power hidden in plain sight in seemingly trivial consumer decisions. And that's why James Simons drove the same maxima for 14 years while managing billions. He understood the calculation. Every dollar not wasted on depreciation was a dollar available to invest in appreciating assets. Multiplied by millions of dollars and decades of compounding, this created $28 billion. The scaled version for the average person? Difference between comfortable retirement and rich retirement derived entirely from mathematical optimization of a single consumption category. Research published by the National Bureau of Economic Research analyzing patterns of wealth building over entire life cycles identified that differences in discretionary consumption, especially vehicles and housing, explain more variation in wealth accumulation among people of similar income than differences in income. Two professionals earning $80,000 a year for 30 years. One retires with $3 million and $800,000. Another retires with $700,000. Income difference? Zero. Difference in consumption choices? Massive. What the data consistently reveals. People who treat large purchases like vehicles and homes as investment decisions by calculating return on capital and opportunity cost accumulate multiples of wealth compared to people who treat the same purchases as expressions of identity or status. This does not make a group morally superior, but it makes a group mathematically richer. The question is not which approach is right. The question is, what result do you want? If you want to maximize net worth over your lifetime, the math is unequivocal. Buy 3 to 5-year-old vehicles from reputable manufacturers, pay cash or minimal finance, drive for 8 to 10 years, and invest the difference. If you value having a newer vehicle for psychological or social reasons and are willing to accept the measurable opportunity cost, that is a legitimate choice too. But do it consciously, with your eyes open to the real number. The mistake most people make is not choosing status over wealth consciously. It's not realizing that they are making a choice. They see the $700 monthly payment and think, I can afford that. They don't calculate that those 700 monthly investments for 30 years become $2,600,000. They don't realize that they are implicitly choosing drive newer vehicle for 6 years over have $2,600,000 more in retirement. If you make the choice explicit, many people would decide differently. My goal is not to prescribe what you should value. My goal is to make the math transparent, so you can choose consciously based on real opportunity cost, not intuition clouded by monthly payment bias. This content is exclusively for educational purposes based on historical patterns and mathematical principles documented by institutions such as the Federal Reserve, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Consumer Reports, and peer-reviewed academic research. Nothing in this video constitutes financial advice or investment recommendations. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Markets are inherently unpredictable and involve risk. Vehicle choices depend on individual circumstances including family needs, geographic location, professional use, and personal priorities. Always consult a qualified financial professional before making investment decisions. My goal is to share frameworks for mathematical thinking about opportunity cost, not to prescribe specific actions for your individual situation. Calculations presented use historical averages and may not reflect future experience. Vehicle costs investment return rates, and personal circumstances vary widely. Use these frameworks as a starting point for your own analysis, not as a prescription. If the mathematical framework I demonstrated about opportunity cost in vehicle decisions makes logical sense, if you can see how thinking about net present value differs from thinking about monthly payment, hit that like button right now. Statistically, only 3 to 5% of YouTube viewers actively like videos, according to data from the platform. Be part of the statistical minority that acts based on logic. Sign up if you haven't already. And comment on your location below, because I want to test a hypothesis about whether people who think mathematically about consumption cluster geographically or are evenly distributed. Let's collect the data and see what patterns emerge. Your city and state in the comments. Let's build the map and analyze the distribution. And if this framework of opportunity cost thinking has been valuable, consider that consistent application of these principles over decades is what separates modest wealth accumulation from transformative. It's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep and how much you make that capital work through compounding. Thank you for thinking mathematically with me today.